So today's topic is the 9 crucial shifts that every lawyer needs to make. In fact, every leader in professional services needs to make so that they can have a greater influence, create more income, and be a bigger impact in their law career without burning out, without all that stress and conflict. And I'm going to take you through that and give you some things to think about today. And then there'll be an opportunity, if you want to connect with me outside that, I can answer questions further. But we've got a lot to cover in the next hour. And as I said, you have a workbook there that you can download. It's in the chat. You've probably already got it. And if you haven't, that's fine. You can grab it, grab the link, and you can grab it later to take some notes for yourself. Lots more people coming on. Put your cameras on if you can. As I said, it would be great to see your face. So welcome for those who are already here. So here's what I know. Professionals can significantly reduce conflict and manage stress and increase their productivity by developing some key leadership skills that are not taught in university. And I know from my own experience that our technical abilities and our expertise and what we learn will only get us so far. So this is something I'm very passionate about, and I want to give you some stuff today that you can take away and practically use in your career, whether you are someone who is leading a team or whether you're just leading yourself at this point. So who am I? I know that I've met a lot of you. There's a lot of you who have just been recommended by someone to come on this webinar and you don't know who I am. So let me just introduce myself. And if I push the right button, it will work. So my name is Grant Herbert, commonly known as the People Builder. And I have been working now as a leadership trainer and coach for close on 40 years. Through my military and corporate careers, and then for the last 15 years in my own practice. And there is a lot of things that I have learnt. There's a lot of subject matter expertise that I have and all those credentials that I know that are helping me to do what I do. But at the end of the day, I'm an ordinary guy with an outstanding wife, 5 amazing kids, 4 exceptional grandkids, who is on his own journey of imperfection. And most of what I teach you will come out of my own experience as someone who has stumbled along the way over their career and didn't have the benefit of the training that I'm going to give you today. And you see, I put my pants on one leg at a time most mornings, just like you. So although I am the subject matter expert in today's call, what I want you to do is realize that I'm a work in progress in what I'm teaching you. So a lot of times when we hear an expert speak, we put them up here and we go, okay, it's all right for them. That's their area of expertise. I couldn't do that. And I want to challenge you on that, to just look at me as a person who has a different set of skills to you. All right, so that's who I am. What I'd love to do right now is hear a little bit about you. So in the chat right now, just so that I can see that that's working and we get some engagement, I'd love to hear where you are from. So what part of the world? I'm in Sydney, Australia. What part of the world you're from, and what it is that you do in your career, i.e., I'm a lawyer in-house at a company, or I'm a partner in a law firm, whatever it is. So if you can do that, that will give me a little bit of things to work on, but particularly where you come from. And that's going to help me as well. So once some chats start coming through, I'll know that that side of things are working and we can keep moving. All right, so So there's 50 of us on the call right now. Fantastic. Thank you, Dylan. Singapore dispute resolution lawyer. Love that. Another one from Singapore. Trademarks lawyer in a firm. Charmaine is an employment lawyer in Singapore. So Singapore's representing today, which is fantastic. So keep them coming in. That would be great. And if you can, some of you are sending those as direct messages to me. Just change that to everyone so that people, so that I don't get distracted by those messages, because I can get distracted, and they go to everyone. I'm from Singapore, says Nicolette. I'm an associate in a litigation firm. Welcome. I'm in conveyancing in Singapore. So Singapore is winning right now. And I know that there was some amazing people from like Delphine, who's on the call right now, from Singapore Academy of Law, and Adrian Tan, who also, and some others. I actually think I saw someone else that I recognized as well before, but I can only see names now because their camera's not on. But there was a number of people in Singapore who sent this out. So that's why we've got a lot of people from Singapore. Fantastic. We've got Jade from, where did that go? Newcastle in Australia. Hi, hey, Jade. Jade and I were on a course together in mental health, first aid, just recently. Singapore. So we've got people from all around the place, and mainly looks like they are lawyers, and that's a good thing. All right. So what I'm going to do is keep going, and I want to get you ready for me to give you what I need to give you. A lot of times when we just jump in and we want to learn something new, unless we get engaged in that, we don't get as much from it. Serene. Yes, there's someone else who was kindly sharing this around to get some people involved as well. Great to see you, Serene. Well, I can't see you, but I can see your name. So, yeah, so I want to lay a platform first. Thank you, Serene. Look at her, beautiful lady. Around that, so that you get engaged in this. Because I know right now you could be doing a lot of things, and there's other things that are going into your mind right now. I want you to give yourself permission to be present in this lunch and learn session. All right. So, as I said, I don't know why you're here today. There's something about this that said, yeah, I need to come to this, which is good because you could be doing other things. And these are some of the things that I see. People sometimes are in a bit of a rut. It's a little bit like Groundhog Day. They're doing the same old stuff, and the same thing every day rolls into weeks, which rolls into months, which rolls into years. Some people, you could be losing yourself, that I'm changing who I am as a person because of what I do. Others might be experiencing what I call partners in conflict, where you feel like you're in a divorce, in a marriage, where you've got partners who are not getting on with each other, and you're in the background of that. Or perhaps you are a partner and you've got a lot of challenges that comes with working with other people. And for some of you, you might feel like there's no end in sight, and you just feel like you're on this hamster wheel and you're not really going anywhere, and you're not quite sure. And some people I know, because I talk to people all the time who do what you do, are disillusioned about what it is that they are doing, and really thinking, is this for me? Is this where I want to be moving forward? So wherever you are right now, I want you to, and it could be none of those, I want you to engage yourself in why you are here. I have a lot of professionals tell me, look, I'm successful technically, but my energy goes up and down, and in some cases so is my income, and I'm always working hard to please my clients and my team. All right. So, if you feel like any of those things actually relate to you, give me a yes in the chat box, so that I know that I'm actually speaking to people who are having these similar challenges. Because here's the thing, all those things have an impact, an effect on your ability to influence, on your ability to create income, and on your ability to impact the world with what you do in law like you wanted to do. And yeah, look, I've got yeses coming up everywhere. So that's good. We've got people who, in fact, I'm going to move this over to the other side because, and that's the chat, so that I'm not looking over there all the time. All right. Okay, so I'm talking to the right people. That's great. Because here's the problem that I see. Far too many professionals burn out or make a low impact. You know, we are in a very high performance profession. And if what I'm going to teach you today is not managed, then burnout is definitely something that you can suffer from. But it's not your fault. I don't want to give you that good news right now, because the way things are structured, you've been taught to fail. You've been taught, go to university, get a degree, get a couple of degrees, whatever you've been taught, work really hard, and that's led you into what it is that you're doing today. But the problem is they don't teach you other than your technical skills. And then you get into what it is that you're doing in a law firm or in-house or wherever you are, and you find that those missing pieces are the ones that create the biggest challenge for you. And then as your career develops, you get promoted into a management position. And then you think, wow, that's exciting. I get promoted. I can't even look after myself and lead myself. And now you want me to lead other people. And what ends up happening is people get promoted because of their technical ability without the skills that they need to go along with that. And that causes a lot of problems. Then there's the technical imbalance between what I know about the law and what I know about people and working with people and those sort of things. And indeed, in continuing legal education, CPD, there's a tendency for there to be very much focused around the technical, and then a smaller smattering of what I believe are wrongly called soft skills to go around the outside of that. You know, people tell me all the time, I have no time to lead. I've got all this work that I have to do as well. And all these things create a lot of stress and a lot of conflict. Now, I don't know about you right now, whether you're nodding your head, and I can only see some of you because your cameras are off. But in my experience of working with lawyers all around the world, and I've been doing this with lawyers now for about 13, 14 years, these are the things that I see and these are the things that I hear. So once again, if any of those things are relating to you, then just give me a thumbs up to your camera or a yes in the chat box, whichever is going to work for you. All right, so here's some good news. It doesn't have to be that way. So when you can become a developed leader, so you add those skills where it helps you to navigate through your career and through this thing called leadership. When you have a balanced skill set of your technical expertise and those other attributes and skills that you need, you can then build profitable teams. And I'm not just talking about profitable from the sense of commercially, and although that's important, right? Whether you work in-house or in a firm, the idea is it's a commercial entity. You've got to make money, right? But profitable in all areas of their life, in your life. You know, the positive growth and impact that people have, their life outside of work as well. And then you have the ability to, in a positive way, have more influence, create more income, and make a bigger impact. All right, so all that is bundled up and depends on this thing called leadership. Now, unfortunately, my experience is that leadership has been relegated to a set of skills that only some people need. So if I am working where I have a team, then I need to get people to do stuff. I need leadership skills. And that is unfortunately not correct. So what leadership is, it starts with leading you. It's a set of internal characteristics that a person has, not a set of skills to get people to do what you want them to do. That's a part of it. And the other problem that I see is that there are so many leadership skills that are being taught that are not as relevant today as they used to be. Because today's leaders, and by the way, put your hand up, that's you. Today's leaders need to be taught how to lead in today's world. The world has changed, the world's evolved, and so has leadership. You may or may not have heard of this term. It's called VUCA. It stands for volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. And that was a term coined by the American military at the end of the Cold War to describe the change in the battlefield environment. And a few years ago, the business world took that on and said, that sounds like a good acronym for us to use. Now, I believe that it's certainly this, but I'm calling it now a super VUCA world, because with what's happened with us in the last 3 years, it's become even more volatile, even more uncertain, definitely complex. I mean, technology was supposed to make life easier, and I believe that it's made it more complex and ambiguous. So we don't know everything. There's a lack of certainty, and it's a big challenge right now. So that's the environment that you and I are leading in. So therefore, that's how we need to be taught to lead. So there's many things that we used to be taught in leadership when it was command and control. Command and control doesn't work. It does in things like the military and emergency services, but in the business world, it doesn't work. So we need to shift, and we went into the age of going from manager to leader, and we all talked about that. We've gone beyond that. So there's a certain set of skills, and what I'm going to give you today is based around relevancy to what you need right now. All right, so there are 3 stages, or indeed 3 faces of leadership that I want to introduce you to. And then we'll go into the 9 shifts. But I want to lay this platform first so that we know where it all fits in. So the 3 areas of leadership that we're going to talk about is personal leadership, which is about leading you. So this is where you might have had that view and been taught that leadership is only for people who have a team or whatever. This is where it brings everybody. So every single one of us right now is leading self. And we're either doing an exceptional job at that, or there's some things that we can work on. My experience in my own life and talking to many people around the world is the person that is the most challenging to lead in most people's lives is self. So there's a certain amount of skills that we need to learn to be able to do that. The second area is professional leadership. And this is where you are leading the processes that get you the results from your effort. And I'm going to step through and show you those areas shortly. And then we get to people leadership. This is leading others, whether it be one person, a small team, a large team, or an organization. And it's not just in the workplace. We lead everywhere in different roles that we have in our life. All right, so what I'm going to do now is just step through each of those 3 areas and put a little bit of context around it, and then we'll get into the shifts. So let's talk about your personal leadership, leading you. It's all about your inner game. As the picture shows us there, a lot of times we wear a mask. A lot of times we pretend to be who we think others want us to be. And there's a lot of stuff that goes on in our limiting and false beliefs and our brain wiring and our conditioning around our identity and who we believe we are. So here's the problem. You worked really hard. You got into your profession so that you could secure a great lifestyle for you and yours, but you're always working flat out. You've got conflicting priorities, and, depending on where you are in your stage of life, those priorities will be different. However, for me, it was having a priority that says my family are my priority. But what I did for a living took me away from them all the time, and that can create a lot of internal conflict. For some of us, we get to the point where we feel like a fraud. This is who I am, but this is how I'm acting. This is what I value, but this is not what I'm getting to show in what it is that I do. And you feel sometimes out of your comfort zone, where there's things going on that you're not ready for. And some of us even feel like they're on a treadmill to nowhere. They're just day in, day out in that same rut. And unfortunately, in professional services, a lot of times people don't have an exit plan. And one of the main reasons for that is that their identity is all built around what they do. So the great news here is that it doesn't have to be that way. You can go from that to working smarter, to feeling authentic and being whoever you need to be in every area of your life, where you feel more in control and on mission, your mission, right? On track to achieve and set out, what you set it out to achieve. And when you first signed up for this thing called professional services or law, and you live and then leave the profession when it's time on your terms with a great exit plan. So that's some of the challenges around the personal leadership. Then we've got our professional leadership. As I said, this is the getting stuff done. And I know that you're a great technician, and we're continually learning and we're continually growing in that. But it's way more than a technical role. You're always out there looking for the next client if you're in private practice, or the next internal person that you're working with, etc., if you're working in-house. You feel like you're just one of so many, because there are a lot of people that come out of law school, and there's a lot of people in law, and you sometimes feel like you're a clone, or there's so many of you, it's really challenging to stand out. Always way too busy because you're on the clock, juggling current clients' work. But you want me to go and develop my practice, but I've got all this work to do for the current clients, etc. So all this stuff I know goes on. And what it leads to is you always being open for business. All right? Now, by the way, you'll get a copy of the replay of this. I need to go through this fast because we've only got an hour together so that I can go through the shifts. But you can go back and watch this again if there's anything that you miss. But this being open for business all the time is one of the big challenges that I see, because it means that you are not able to put your energy into the other areas of your life as well. But you can change that. You can become a multi-skilled, professional, where you can wear different hats other than the technical one, and you can do it in a way that is balanced. If you are someone that is in commercial practice, you can have a constant flow of clients. Imagine being like an Apple store, where and I use all Apple stuff, right? But I'm certainly not someone who sleeps overnight or 2 nights to get the next gadget, be the first one. But imagine if that's what you had as someone building a practice, where people were waiting to work with you because you're the only one that they see. You stand out, and you get to choose the best fit clients. I'm not sure if you ever watched any of these shows, and I know I've watched them over the years. This guy, Simon Cowell, runs all those shows where contestants come and they sing or perform in front of him, and it's like they're doing an audition. And he then decides whether they go through to the next round. A lot of times when we're getting clients, we feel a bit like the contestant. But we can shift that, and we can become the Simon Cowell and choose the clients that we want to work with. And we can develop leveraged efficiency where we're getting more done with less time and energy being consumed so that we can enjoy going home on time and taking some real time off. I've done many workshops around the world, and one of the things that I always do when I'm in the workshop face-to-face is I get people to turn off their phones and put them away so that they're not being constantly bothered about what's going on outside the room. And I've had situations where I've had to actually show people how to turn their iPhone off because they bought it, the person turned it on for them when they bought it, and they've never turned it off since. But the beauty of being able to go on a break and have real time off, so you're not just physically away from work, you're actually mentally away from work as well, is something that we all need. So that's our professional leadership. Then we jump into people leadership, right? This is where most people think that it starts. And it's a bit scary because you don't have those skills. And as I said, for most of us, we don't even know how to lead ourselves, and now they want us to lead others as well. And you have this thought of, this isn't what I signed up for. I want to be a lawyer. That's a technical role where you're putting out fires and you feel like a referee sometimes, where you've got to make decisions, and decisions that don't just affect you, but they affect other people as well. In commercial law and other areas, you've got to get people to pay the money as well. And then you've got partners. See, partner is a funny term, and it seems to be a milestone for lawyers that when I'm a partner, I've made it. Unfortunately, though, when you get to that partner level, you're not at the top of the ladder anymore. You're now at the bottom of the new ladder. And there's a lot of stuff that comes that you didn't think comes with being a partner, because now you've got to work with other people, and you've got to, if you're an equity partner, you've got to go from being a lawyer to being a business owner. And this can definitely cause you to be stressed, feeling overworked and underpaid, because you're always being controlled by others. Okay, there's good news around this as well. And that's what I want to bring you today. You can make some changes now, and I'm going to introduce you to how to do that shortly, so that you can be more balanced, so that you can have willing followers that you're not dragging, kicking and screaming, so that you can have prolific profits because you're investing your energy in things that make the progress rather than all those other things, putting out fires, etc. Where you can live life on your terms, and success, whatever that means for you, is something that you're in control of. All right, so we're going to jump into the 9 crucial shifts now. But before we do that, let me just check in. I'd love you to put something in the chat box right now. Is this something that you are relating to? Or if there's something that really sticks out for you, pop it in there, right? It could be your personal leadership, something in your professional or your people leadership. Gives me a chance to take a breath, have something to drink as well. So if you can just pop that in there or something, that would be great. I've got a thumbs up as well. That's anything that gives me some sort of an engagement will be excellent. Now, I know for some of you, I'm talking really, really fast, and I'm excited about this topic, but I now will slow down a little bit because I want to get into the stuff. And as I said, I'm going to give you ways to, look at some other resources and that I've got there anyway, so that you can go deeper. All right. So very relatable content. Thanks, Grant, says Maury. And if I pronounce your name wrong, I apologize. Great reminders and sense making what you've said thus far. Thank you, Gladys. As a lawyer, I was always reminded that I am in a service industry, but what stands out for me is the reminder that all leadership ought to be on my own terms, not solely to please the client. Exactly. And we can do both. We can please the client by pleasing ourselves. Serene says, open for biz all the time. Yeah, definitely. Everything relevant so far, But what particularly resonated was the feeling of needing to develop my practice, but also service current clients. Definitely overworked with current clients and no time for anything else. And thank you for the thumbs up, Delphine. All right, so if you pop more in there, that's fantastic. As I said, just try and send them to everyone rather than the direct message to me, because that way it'll help everyone as well. So there are 9 crucial shifts. And if you've got the workbook there, let me just pop it in again for those who might have come in late. If you didn't get it, you can just take a hold of this and grab it for later. But there's 9 crucial shifts that I've found. 3 in 3. I just put up 4 fingers. 3 in, 1 in each area. That will definitely help you. And Alvin, probably help in mental health. Most definitely. I love that. So in the workbook, I've given you a little diagram there on the first page, but I'm going to go through each of those. And there's an area in your workbook to take some notes on each of them. All right, so let's talk about the personal shifts first. So there's 3 shifts here. The first one is a shift in your identity. Now, if I had you in a room, I'd be asking you this question. Put your hand up, and you can use the thumbs up button or whatever, or your hands up on the. Put your hand up in the room if you are a lawyer. Right? Got some people physically putting their hand up, which is great. I've got some hands going up. And others are still trying to work out where the hand button is, and that's totally okay. And some of you are putting it up, and I'm not able to see you. All right, great. So pop your hands down. And here's the thing. It was a trick question, right? This is where most of your challenges come from. And that's why I want to start here at identity. You are not a lawyer. You are a human being. And law is something that you do. When you become, and your identity, which is who you believe you are, not what you do, when you become that and you go, I am a lawyer, and that's what you think, and that's how you think, that's why when you go home, you're finding it difficult to separate from what you're doing during the day. So a little bit of a huge distinction there that I want you to ponder on. All right, so in the area of identity, the shift here. So every one of these shifts I'm going to take you through. This is where you are. This is where you can go, right? Everything that you need to invest in has to transform you. It's not about information. It's about transformation. So it's about going from conflicted, where you give up who you believe you are or who you really are to please everyone else, where you run the performance trap, as I call it. People pleasing, all these imposter syndrome. They've got so many names for it. But at the end result, you do things that you wouldn't normally do because you feel that you need to get people to make you feel like you belong and that you're good enough and that they like you. So you end up doing things like jumping out of aeroplanes with a parachute, a perfectly good aeroplane, because you think you got to do that, right? And insert whatever things you're doing there. It's not just about jumping out of planes. And you feel conflicted in yourself because you're not being who you really are, right? If anyone's brave enough to give me a yes, that's me, then I'd love to see that. The more that you can get involved in this, the greater impact it'll have for you today. Thank you, Jen. I appreciate that hand. So it's about going from there to being congruent with who you truly are. So you can still be a great lawyer without losing yourself. By being authentic, by being real. And, I find this is so much more enjoyable. I used to be in the people-pleasing area and the performance trap for many, many years. And it's exhausting, but this allows you to just flow so much more. So that's the first shift that we want to deal with. The second shift in your personal leadership is a shift in your intelligence. Now, this isn't about getting smarter, but this is about going from a mindset of singular intelligence. So your focus is around your cognitive intelligence, what you know, what you've learnt at university, at the College of Law or Singapore Academy of Law or wherever you've done all this learning. And it goes from that technical and cognitive ability alone, which can only take you so far, to multiple intelligence. And in particular, your emotional intelligence and your social intelligence. I also talk about creative intelligence, and there's a number of them. Because you're a multifaceted being. You're not just what you know. And I guarantee that most of your conflict on your day-to-day and month-to-month basis comes out of an inability to be able to navigate your emotions in a healthier way. So the third shift is a shift in your intention. Intention's about doing stuff on purpose. Intention in this context is about your plan for your life, which includes your career, not a plan for your business. Most people spend very little time in this area. Might have done it at one point, but they're not doing it anymore. And they're just day-to-day working scattered. Seat of the pants, crisis mentality, going from crisis to crisis, reactionary, and not really having any direction outside matter to matter. But we can shift that and go to being planned, where you've got a clear direction and knowing everything that you need to do to get there, incrementally, step by step. You know, I know there'd be people on the call who had dreams at one point in their life and they've let them go because they're stuck in what they're doing now. And that's okay, but you can come out of that. So there's 3 areas in your personal leadership that you need to shift in. You need to shift your identity, your intelligence, and your intention. All right. So I'm happy for you to put insights in as you go. I just want to give you a little bit of my journey. So here's me, right, in my military and corporate career because of my challenges of not making these shifts in my identity. I had great results, but I was a nightmare to manage because my technical ability was great and I did very well. But my inner game of how I felt about myself, my lack of self-worth, my lack of personal power, my lack of emotional intelligence meant that I did really, really well. My clients loved me, but internally in the organization, they didn't, because I was trying to be someone that I wasn't. I was trying to fit in and all these things, right? So does that sort of sound familiar to you? Because here's the thing, this is what we're doing. We've got to go from a position of being looking for approval all the time to being authentic, to just being okay with who you are. We've got to look from beyond our cognitive intelligence alone to our emotional intelligence. And we've got to go from being unorganized to being on purpose. All right. So that is the first area. Okay. So let's now, and I'm mindful of the time, let's have a look at our professional shifts. Professional shifts, as I said, this is your area where you do things to help you, not a team, you produce results. So the first area is your performance. Your performance is what you do and how you do it. And this is a shift going from high performance, right, which there's a whole community out there, a whole profession around high performance leadership and high performance coaching and all that sort of stuff. And it's great, but it's not something that you can do for a long period of time. It's exhausting. It has major effects on your health. And the shift here is to go from high performance, and yes, there's times when we need to be in that high performance, and we are in a high performance industry, to sustainable performance. I am someone who has burnt out twice in the last 40 years. And some of you might be thinking, well, how come you can talk about this then? Because you clearly don't know what you're doing. But it's out of that experience that I'm able to help you. So I'm really on a mission to make sure that I'm sharing this stuff so that you don't have to go through the stuff that I went through. Because you can't help anyone when you burn out. So there's different ways that you can do things and still have a high level of performance. All right, the next area is in your positioning. Now, if you are in-house, this is positioning yourself with your client. This is positioning yourself within your own organization that you're a part of. If you are in a commercial law practice, this is your positioning to your potential clients, because this is how you're going to stand out. And the shift here is to go from being invisible, because you're just like everyone else, there's so many of us, to in demand, so that you have a waiting list, and it could be a physical waiting list, but I'm talking more metaphorical here, of people who are lining up to work with you. And that is really, really something that you need to do some different things to perhaps what you're doing now so that you can do that. The third shift in this area is in your productivity. Yes, that old chestnut, it's still there. We need to produce. So it's not about just going to work and being busy and just being there. You and I need to produce something. And the shift here, which is firstly a mindset shift, then behavior, is to shift from thinking about everything in the lens or through the lens of time to outcomes. And outcomes and looking at it as part of the big picture is really important. So if you're in a commercial law firm, you probably use billable hours. I know there's some people that have shifted away from that now. I'm not talking about that, because billable hours are a metric and we need those. But when the focus is on the billable hours, it creates a lot of challenges for our ability to be able to actually create them. All right, so what about you? Are you ready to jump out of that bowl of where everyone else is and make some shifts in your life, in your career? What is actually making sense for you as I go through this? And this is what I want you to do. You know, I'm giving you a little bit of me and I'm being vulnerable and talking about my story, but I want you to talk about or see your story as you're going through this and put yourself in there with your story. Because this shift in, or the shifts in this area, is about going from feeling overwhelmed all the time to optimizing you and your performance for the long term. It's about going from being a generalist and just like everybody else to being a specialist. I don't know about you, but if you're going to have someone operate on your brain, I'm not going to my GP. Now, I'm not just specifically talking about specializing in an area of law. What I'm talking about is more in your thought leadership, in your ability to specialize in your message, etc. It's also about going from chaos and being at the next crisis to feeling like you're in control and you're the conductor of what's going on rather than everything else dictating. All right. You know, it's like your inbox. Who here, just wave at me if you have an inbox that's full all the time, right? Your inbox is just a to-do list for other people to put stuff on, right? So sometimes you feel like you're being controlled by others, and you are. But it's a matter of you feeling in control, like you're conducting that. And once again, these all have a lot to do with your ability to influence, the amount of income that you can make, and your career influence or impact, I should say. All right. And then we have the people shifts. And for some of you, you may not be ready yet. However, I want you to just take it in as if you are, because even though you might have a team, you've got others that you have to work with. All right. So it's relevant to every one of us. And the first area is in resilience. Human beings are great. I love them. It's what I do. I'm the people builder. But let me tell you, working with others can create some challenges for us. It can create some issues with the way we feel. And this shift is going from feeling stressed all the time and wearing stressed as a badge alongside the busy badge that we all wear to feeling strong. Now, resilience is something that I teach a little bit differently to the common teachings out there. Resilience is not hardening up. Resilience is not suck it up and get on with it. Resilience is definitely not what I hear in law all the time from people where they go, oh, look, if you can't handle the heat, get out of the kitchen. It's none of that. It's not about soldiering on, sucking it in and just going forward. It's nothing about that at all. It's not even about, just bouncing back all the time. I believe it's more about bouncing forward. So out of adversity, using that to propel you forward. And sometimes it does feel a little bit like this plant here, that everything else is barren and arid around us, and we're still pushing through. I go out to do my yard, and there's areas of concrete that I have and the grass. And for the life of me, don't know how. Sometimes there's a weed that grows up through the crack in the concrete, right? That is resilience. So this is a big area that I love to work on. And then we've got relationships. I don't care about chat, GPT, AI, and all these things that are there to serve us and to help us. We are always going to have relationships. Relationships with the people in our firm, or our organization if it's in-house, relationships with our clients, our suppliers, our family, our community. Everything is going to be built on relationships because we are what? We are human beings, right? All the other stuff's there to support that. So this shift is about going from conflict. We talked about internal conflict before in terms of, your personal leadership, but conflict with others, where because they're different and because they have different ideas and different opinions and they've got their own agendas and all these things going on, and we decide that what they're saying means certain things, and all the psychology that I work on that goes behind that, we're in conflict all the time. And it's a shift of going from that to collaboration, collaborating with people. I love this metaphor of a rope. A single rope on its own has a ratio of 1 in terms of its strength. But if you put 2 ropes together, it doesn't increase that to 2. It increases it tenfold. So collaboration with others means that we can get so much more done. So there's a certain set of skills that we need to learn around this. And there's a lot of work that I do in this area. However, having said that, a lot of firms will want me to come in and work in that area. But what I say is we need to work on the personal leadership side of things first, because we can learn great skills. However, how we feel about ourselves and how our personal leadership is will have a dramatic effect on whether or not that is successful. All right. And then shift number 9, and this is a big one for anyone who has moved to the area of now I've got a team that I've got to lead as well. And this is about shifting from doing to get results, or only doing, and everything is just dependent on you. And that was the professional leadership area, where you're juggling all this stuff and holding on to things and not delegating to others because you don't believe that they'll do a good enough job to represent you, and all those internal things that we've talked about, to getting your results through others, through the performance and productivity of others. And it's all about passing the baton and being okay, and to be able to allow others to do things and make mistakes, and to not let that affect the way you feel about yourself, to be able to go from a position of performance management to coaching and mentoring people and developing them. I remember in my career, I didn't want to mentor anyone because I was still had a very low self-worth, and I was operating out of that. And I thought that if I taught someone to do what I do, they're going to look better than me. They're going to go beyond me. And I felt, like that was a threat. And that's why I didn't, get on real well with the people that I was working with. But I've learnt now, and now with my team, I want my team to go way further than I have ever done, all right? Because I don't feel threatened by that. But this is a major area that I find that creates a lot of wasted energy and time because people won't delegate for all those reasons. All right. So let's check in. Let's push the pause button for a moment. I've given you a lot. And as today, as I said, it was just an overview so that you know what to focus on. But what can you relate to? What is it in your personal, professional, or people leadership, right? What's the one thing that stood out for you the most? Either write it down for yourself, or if you really want to get value out of this, pop it in the chat box. Just a few words so that I know that I'm actually scratching where you're itching. So just while you're doing that, are you grinding, this hustle and grind mentality? Or are you growing? Is it okay to not get things perfect, to celebrate progress, not perfection, to continue to grow? Are you constantly in tension, or have you got great teamwork? Are you looking just at the metrics, or are you mentoring others and helping them to grow as well? So unless something's happened with the chat box, I'm not seeing anything typed in. Look, that's okay, because you might have just wrote it down for yourself, or you might be thinking about it. But at least I want you to consider that, because here's the thing. I know what I'm putting down here today is what you need. What I also know, though, is that information on its own is no value. In fact, it's better if you don't know it, because it's frustrating when you know it and you don't use it. So I want you to walk away from here today with some things to think about and then to activate. All right, so I enjoy mentoring, but I find it hard to do productivity while meeting my billable hour targets. Yes, I understand. I find myself having to work much longer days in the short term in order to make up for the time spent coaching. Okay, any tips? I'm going to give you one, because obviously I'm not able to go deeper on these things. However, what I like to use, and you can connect with me on LinkedIn and ask me more questions, I like to use a thing called concurrent activity. So if I can bring my mentoring and my billable hours work together, then it's not a dichotomy. And I find this being a big challenge in professional services, where we think in a dichotomy. I'm either doing billable hours work or I'm mentoring. No, let's do them together. So thank you, CKR. I'm not sure what that means, but thank you for stepping up there. All right, so let's talk about your journey. So I developed a little model which is really easy for you to look at and to utilize. And I want to give you this as a gift, not just for the context of what I'm doing today, but take this, use it with your team, right? It's yours. I didn't make up the words. Everybody owns them. I want you to use this. And I call it the R4 roadmap. So this is something that you can use to get some clarity around, how do I do all this? Because I don't want this to be another thing for you to be overwhelmed about. Oh, now I've got to make 9 shifts and all this. No, I want you to be able to plan it out so that you get value. So here's the first thing. And by the way, I've given you something to draw on in your what's it called? Workbook. So the first thing I want to do is look at your results and ask yourself the question, where do you want to be in a year from now? And then do that in relation to whatever metrics are important to you. But then you need to bring yourself back to reality and go, well, where am I right now with those things? And then you've got a gap. So you now know the gap that you need to work on. Now, as I said, I don't want you to feel overwhelmed. Forget about the gap. That's a 12-month gap. I'm going to show you what to do shortly. Then, though, you want to identify your roadblocks. These are the things that are stopping you or would stop you from going from where you are now to where you want to go. And a lot of those things are internal. And what I want you to think about here is not the things external, everyone else, what they're doing. No, what are you doing? Then we've got resources. These are the things that you need to add so that you can overcome those roadblocks and go from where you are to where you want to go. And I've given you this sheet here for you to go through this. And what you'll notice that I've done now is that I've broken that year down. So what you then do, once you've worked that out and you've gone through the process, and I'm giving you some questions to answer in a moment that'll help you to do that, you then go back to that first 90 days. You go back to here and you go, okay, so what are the results that I want 3 months from now? And then you have a smaller chunk, which is large enough, long enough to stretch you a little bit and to get some stuff done, but it's close enough for you to be able to see it. And then you go through the same process. What's the results I want? Where am I with those things? What are the roadblocks? What do I need to bring in so that I can overcome them? All right, so there's 4 questions that you need to ask yourself. The first one, if you're writing down notes, how do you want your life to look different a year from now? And that's the results that you want. So when you do this process, I suggest, but it's up to you how you do it, that you do something firstly around your whole life. Then you do one for your career, right? For your work. Okay. And you might do one separate for other things outside of that. But mixing them together or just doing work means that you're going to be out of balance. That's the first one. The second one is, okay, so how does life look different to that right now? And that's where you're getting the gap. So, okay, so I want to go here, but I'm here. And that's okay. And make sure that you look at that with what I call forward-focused reflection. See, the damage is, and I'm probably going to go a couple of minutes over if that's okay, the damage is that when you look at that, what a lot of us do, because we haven't worked on the identity, is we go, oh, wow, I haven't got far, and you get stuck in that. No, forward-focused reflection says I'm doing this so that it can propel me forward. Very, very important. Then what are you doing currently or not doing to sabotage those results? What's taking you off track? What is it that's stopping in your mindsets and in your behavior? And the last question, what new skills do you need to develop to overcome those roadblocks? And the whole reason why I put together the Lawyers Becoming Leaders curriculum was to help lawyers to be able to do that. Because you don't learn this stuff at law school, right? 9 key development areas to help you in the personal, professional, people, leadership arenas. Those 9 competencies of identity, intelligence, intention, performance, positioning, productivity, resilience, relationship, and results. So the 2 key things that you need is self-awareness. You need to know where you are with these things. You need to take on what I'm teaching you today and go, yeah, there's some things that I'm good at and there's some things that I could do differently and I could work on. But then you need implementation, right? You need to do something with this information. And I want you all, as I said, to go away from here with one thing that you're going to work on and do something with it. So that brings up another question. How can you get these results in your career? Well, you've got a couple of choices. You can take these lessons that I've given you today and then go off and implement them. And there's a few things that I've given you along the way that you could do that. But for me, what I've found, it's just like getting a big stack of Lego and putting it in and not having any diagram or what do they call those things? Instructions to be able to put it together. You've got to try and work it out. But I like to take the shortcut and I like to get some help. All right. And there's plenty of things that you can get. And I believe you need 2 things. You need support. So someone who knows what you need to know, someone that supports you and can give you the space that you need to grow, and you need some accountability. Accountability that keeps you doing the stuff that you say that you're going to do. Not accountability in the sense of people telling you what to do. This is a different sort of accountability. All right, so you might be thinking, oh, that's great, Grant. That's all fantastic. I loved it, but I'm not sure where to start. So I want to give you a next step. And this is not something to do now, because I know some of you will have to go to do something else. But the last page, or the second last page of the workbook that I've given you, is an action, next actions, I call it. So you write down, these are my notes and these are my questions. And by the way, if you do have some questions that pop up, I have a duty of care around this sort of stuff where I've only had an hour with you. If you're connected with me on LinkedIn, or if you're not, you can do that. I'm happy that if you've got a question that's specific around something, or a first step, you can pop in there and ask me a question. And I'm going to give you a window of the next 7 days so that you actually have a deadline and you get something done. But then on the right-hand side, what are your insights? And by the way, if you do have the ability to give yourself 5 minutes, 10 minutes at the end of this before going to do the next thing, that's the best time to do it. But I understand you might not be able to. But what are the insights? What are the things that stuck out for you in this presentation? The next under that is the implementation. What is something that you could do to implement what you learnt from that insight? And then I want you to think about the impact that changing that and shifting that in your life, in your career, in whatever it is that you're looking at, will have on you, the positive effect that will have on your life. All right. So, as I said, you can connect with me. Look, the easiest way is either on LinkedIn, or you go to my website, grantherbert.com. There's a lot of resources. You'll find videos. There's a podcast. There's a blog. It just depends what you like to do, read, listen, or watch. And there's a series that I've done on a number of these shifts in there. So I wanted to make sure that you've got that. You can even go down the bottom there. It says free weekly coaching. I have a newsletter that goes out each week, and you can get that sort of stuff where you get some more things around that. And I'm, doing that all out of the Lawyers Becoming Leaders curriculum.